Welcome to the most awkward part of class, strapping on the mic and hobbling to the. All right. And then before we get started, are there any requests? You're thinking about it. Okay. You got it. Well, you've got those. Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. All right, feeling a little sore the next day? Okay. All right. Cool. Excellent. Just means you're able to find your muscles better. Yeah. All right, great. Well, hello. Thank you for joining me for Pilates All Level. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball. If you don't have one at home, you can always take a pillow and fold it a couple of times just to give yourself a little bit of support for when we do some thoracic extensions and stuff. And if you don't have something like that, don't want to use it, you can always put a block or something in between your knees for when we need support for that. As always, don't do anything that doesn't feel right in your body. That's it. We're actually going to begin on all fours today. So let's start by moving our spine a little bit. If it doesn't feel great to be on your hands, you can always come onto your forearms. And if you have a little bit of wrist stuff, but you still are okay being on your hands, put more pressure in your pointer finger mound. And we're just going to let our whole spine sink to the ground and then push the floor away to lift your spine up a bit. And then slowly sink back down. And then push and lift. Just starting to get a little tiny baby bit of extension and flexion. Sometimes, if we're a little stiff, we're not able to really control what we're doing as easily. So hold this last one up. Think about melting your tailbone down like Salvador Dali's clock. Hip bones lift towards the sky, belly button comes towards the sky, press into your hands to come into that thoracic flexion. And then we're unwinding it. So we're going to widen through our sits bones, let the belly button drop down a little, and then spiral your collarbones forward. Yeah, good. And then curl your tailbone again. We're trying to segment a little bit. And then again. Unwinding a little at a time. Now, the goal is intervertebral articulation, right? Like one bone at a time. However, in the real world, that's not always possible. So if it's not, don't worry about it. Just let the different sections of your back move, right? So maybe you can do lumbar, thoracic, cervical, right? Last one like this, up and down. And then we come back to a relatively neutral position. Take your head and tail to one side, getting a little bit of side bending. Circle it down to the other side, and then up. Reverse it. Down, circle, side, up. And reverse again. Back and forth just a couple of times. This should hopefully feel good on your spine. And come back to center. Now, press into the floor so your collarbones can widen. Think almost about pulling your hands apart, like you've got some tissue paper in between them and you just want to rip the paper in the center. And then press down and out into your knees so your side glutes start to help you. And we're just going to start with little kitty cat paws, right? Good. So just a little lift, little lift. And notice what happens, right? So maybe on one side you feel really secure, and maybe on the other side you're like, oh, that's harder to stabilize for some reason, right? Notice without judgment. And if you have a side that wants to grip in order to stabilize, instead, Use your breath. Inhale, exhale. Last one each side. Now both hands or forearms down. Slide one foot away from you. Keep it on the floor to start. And then let it slide back in. Other side. Think almost like you're on the beach in summer, probably not in this weather, and you're gonna just push some wet sand away. So you've got just a tiny bit of resistance. So if wet dirt is mud, what is wet sand called? Is it just wet sand? And then if you would like, you can kind of push opposite foot and hand away, hold, and then slowly bring them back down. See if you shifted. And then other side, push and hold. Think about reaching away rather than up, good, and in. Gorgeous, everybody, just a couple more. One more each side. And then come all the way down. We're going to take the ball, pop it between our knees, and lie down. And we are going to bridge in a second. So if you like blocks underneath your hands to keep your collarbones wide and get that tricep extension, you are welcome to go for it, or tricep activation, my bad. Now first, we're just going to do a kind of a check-in. So just start breathing, inhaling in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. And see how that feels, right? Now, if you tend to have a lot of neck and shoulder tension, there are lots of different root causes, but one of them can often be breath. So bring one hand to your sternum and one hand to your lower ribs. And as you breathe, notice which hand moves first. And then exhale. One more where you just notice. And if you notice your top hand on your sternum moving more aggressively than your bottom hand, see if you can start letting that bottom hand move rather than the top hand, with just a couple more breaths. Thinking of your diaphragm lowering to your hips, ribs expanding three-dimensionally. Last one. And now you can bring your hands to your hip bones. As you exhale next time, think of drawing your ribs towards your belly button and think of your hip bones pulling towards each other, as if there's like a string just attaching them and it just shortens a little. And then inhale, widen everything. Exhale, find that little engagement, right? Good. Hopefully, as you think of your hip bones pulling towards each other and your ribs pulling towards each other, you can feel your transverse abdominis beginning to engage. That deepest, most intrinsic core stabilizer, right? Now, on your next exhale, engage and hold. And then think about rolling your hip bones towards your face, imprinting your spine, lengthening through the front of your thighs, and then rocking your pelvis back to neutral. Inhale. Exhale, engage first, imprint second, and then rock it back to neutral. Two more like this. And in between your rocks, I want you to start paying attention to your feet So just make sure they're pointing forward. And make sure your knees aren't trying to collapse in. On your next one, we get to hold. So engage, hold. Now, push a little bit into your feet. See if you can deepen your imprint. And if you would like your arms to help you, press down into your hands to peel your spine up into your first bridge. Now, first one doesn't necessarily count. We're just kind of seeing where we are, right? So if your hips are dropped or your ribs are popped, maybe you should tuck your tailbone more and press more into your feet and hands. And if you're lifting from your neck or your armpits, think about softening through your neck, opening your collarbones, keeping your weight at your shoulder blades. Inhale here, exhale, melt all the way down, allowing the tissue of your back to relax and just ooze into the floor. And again, imprint, deepen your imprint, lift. And then on the way down, relaxing rather than trying to force articulation, right? So in an ideal world, yes, we are peeling our spine up one bone at a time, as if we're peeling a sticker off the wall. And yes, in an ideal world on the way down, we are reversing that articulation with control. However, if you start bringing extra tension into different parts of your body that don't need it, focus more on relaxing down, like segmentally, like thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, rather than having to have each bone be perfect. Last one like this. And then melt all the way down. And coming back to center, just check in, make sure your back is feeling pretty good. If you are like, oh, there's a little tension, don't be afraid to take one knee to the side and then gently bring it back. Just letting stuff relax again. Interlace your hands behind your head. Spiral your elbows forward. Shoulder blades draw down your back a little bit, but without force. It's just to keep them out of your ears. Now, for this first one, we're going to come into our chest lift, but we're going to look at our eyebrows, or try to. Notice how hard it is to get up here with our eyes looking upright. Now on your next one, kind of glance down towards your nose. See how much easier it is to get upright? So we're going to use that to our advantage. As we're coming up into our flexion, we're going to keep our eyes gazing towards our mid-thigh, and then slowly lower. Couple more like this. Inhale, exhale, think of everything engaging to help you. And then let's try a couple different variations to see if you can feel your TA, your transverse abdominis, kicking on more. So with this first one, just keep everything kind of relaxed. Just think of shortening the distance between your hips and your ribs and hold. Now, I don't know about you, but my rectus abdominis did the little bread loaf, which is an indicator that it's overworking. So come on down. Think about hugging everything in, right? Hip bones towards each other, and then coming up. It's a little bit deeper work for me. And then on this next one, think of your whole spine coming up and over a beach ball. So whatever works best for you is fine by me. Check in with your shoulder blades. If they're really flat on the ground, we'll start pulling from our neck and won't get as much from our abs. So think about the ribs sinking down to lift your shoulder blades up. Bring your hands forward, push them into an imaginary surface, bring them up, interlace them, and slowly lower. Did that feel a little bit more connection? Great. So find everything first, come into that, where your ribs sink down, collarbone spiral forward, hands press up, interlace, and slowly, slowly, slowly lower. 2 more. Now, as you come up, depending on the shape of your spine, you might have to come into a bit more of an imprinted spine and tucked pelvis. It's not the end of the world, but we're trying to maintain as much neutral as possible, which is one reason we started trying to move our spine segmentally before coming up into this. Now hold and reach one hand so it points towards your ankles. Now let your spine side bend as we reach towards the ankle and then back. Good. And then reach towards that ankle and back. So if you can, keep your shoulder blades skimming. If you need to bring your head down for a second, that's fine. Hovering. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's like you have a cat or a dog in your waistline and you need to reach the TV remote around them, right? So yes, side bending here is fine. But then on the way back, we're lengthening through our spine, right? So if you think of a bendy straw, lengthen it back. Good. Last one, hold that length. Good. Now flip that palm up. And we're going to take your other hand and high five yourself. Boom. Now, if your hand, like if you're not getting fingertip to fingertip, see if you can rotate your ribs a little bit more. And then up and over. Switch hands behind your head. Come back down. See if you side bent there. So we're coming up. And now we're side bending and coming back through center. And side bending and coming back through center. Good. Couple more. Still think of up and over as opposed to just a crunch, right? 2 more. Lengthening when you come back. Last one, come back to center. Now we're not side bending, right? So if we're kind of doing this, that's more of a side bend than a rotation. So flip that arm. See if you can keep your spine nice and elongated. We rotate. And then bring your hands up and over. Hold. Reach your fingertips up higher and then come back down. Now, come back up. Up and over. Hold. Come back down. Okay? So we're not having to really worry about, yeah. Good. So instead of side bending as much, lengthen your ears that way. Yeah, and then just lift your chest higher. Yeah. Is that more exciting? And by exciting, I mean harder. Yeah. And then down. Couple more. Good. And then down. So you lift, go up and over like you're grazing your legs. Down. How's everybody feeling? Good? I'll take your silence as a yes. Last one. Unless you're not even, in which case you can always do one more. Now, think about your feet here. And we're going to try to squeeze the ball while supinating our feet. I know it's kind of weird because when our feet supinate, our knees want to go apart. Now, keep that engagement of the muscles and let your feet kind of flatten a little. Think of dragging your heels towards you. So now your hamstrings are active, yeah? Good. Interlace your hands, spiraling those elbows forward. Come into your chest lift. Yeah. And then squeeze the ball. Just squeeze and hold. Now, think about your right side of the ball, or right inner thigh, squeezing harder than the left. You're going to reach that left hand up and over and push it into that leg. So now we're finding that oblique. Good. And then other side. So now left leg and then right oblique. And then right leg, left oblique, external oblique. Good. Couple more. Now, this is fine. This is great. And you can maintain this if it works for you. If you would like, you can also lift your feet up into your tabletop. I prefer to squeeze my heels together a little bit, and you can still maintain that engagement as you press. It's like you're engaging from that oblique and that lat, and then pushing in a little bit with that glute as well as squeezing that inner thigh. So we're not letting the legs move, and we're not so much just using it to get a deeper rotation. We're actually using this to find an isometric contraction. So think armpit, especially the front of the armpit, because that serratus anterior and external oblique work together, you guys. Couple more. Everyone feeling their abs just a little bit? Yeah. 2 more. And then see if you can maintain that hold as you come back. Come back to center. Hands can come forward. Push them into that imaginary surface, and we hold. Now, if at any point your head needs to come down, that's fine. Otherwise, we're going to slowly let our knees come away from our face a little, and then exhale, drag the legs back. Head down is great, right? So head down feels a little easier in some ways because your superficial abdominal muscles aren't as engaged here. However, it's also a little harder because you're then relying on your diaphragm and transverse abdominis to stabilize you. You could also press into the ground with your triceps to have them help you as well. Good. And honestly, it's great if your toes touch the ground, but I don't really care if they do. In fact, if you can get them to the ground, instead of taking them all the way, temper your range a millimeter and just hold it for a second. And then use that breath to bring it back. Good. 2 more. Last one. And then hug your knees in towards your chest, head comes down. Nice job, everybody. We're actually going to take that ball and set it to the side. Now, extend one leg and push into the floor with your other foot. So you're going to roll onto your side here and bring that top knee forward. Now you can support your head any way you need to. Think about lifting your bottom ribs up. And then all we're going to do, think about your bottom foot. Push it away from you and lift it. And hold. Good. So our inner thigh should be active here. Yeah. Now maintaining that lift, bring the heel back in space a little bit without letting the back arch. And then bring it back a little. And again, so now it's inner thigh glute max, yeah? Anybody not feeling a little bit of engagement? If it's not appropriate for whatever reason to have your foot elevated, you can keep it on the floor, but imagine that you're lifting it, right? Imagine you're taking 2 pounds of weight out of it, so the inner thighs will still engage. 2 more. hold it back. Now just externally rotate at the thigh bone a little bit so your knee and toe points down just a little, and then we just lift it a little higher to the sky. Good. 5, 4, 3. Beautiful. And then roll all the way back. Switch sides. So extend and push and roll. And let that leg come forward and slide that hip bone away from your face, lifting your ribs. And just float that leg up a little. And then hold. Everyone feel inner thigh just a baby bit? Great. And press it back. So we're maintaining the engagement of that inner thigh and adding on a little bit of glute. Good. For 4, beautiful. 3, still trying not to move through the back. 2, hold. Externally rotate from the upper thigh bone, right? It's like you're screwing in a light bulb. And just try to lift that foot a little more. Once again, if you can't get your leg off the ground, I don't care. Just imagine lifting it. Imagine lifting it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Go ahead, help yourself all the way back onto your back. Now extend one leg and press the heel down into the ground. That's it. Hopefully you just felt your hamstrings kick on a little bit, yeah? Good. Now, hands interlaced behind your head. If you like, you can come into your chest lift. Good. And then press, bring your elbows forward into your periphery a little bit. Yeah. And then as you're pressing that heel down, squeezing that inner thigh, we're gonna kind of push that foot so far away from you, it tries to leverage you up, and then take half a pound of weight out of the leg. That's it. Good. And then back down, press, press, press. Yeah. And now everybody's proportions are different, right? If you are like me and you've got a longer torso and shorter legs, maybe it's not as much work, right? If you've got really long limbs, maybe you only need to take 1/4 pound of weight out of your leg, right? And you can curl higher than that. Yeah. Last one like this, hold. Now all we're gonna do is imprint our spine, come back to neutral. If you need your leg down, it's fine, we still imprint, neutral. Try to shorten from the rib and the hip, and then lengthen the rib and the hip without lowering the head. How's that feeling, everybody? Little obliquey? Still engage that inner thigh and hamstring as much as you can. 2. Last one. Slide that leg in, other side. And you can always bring your head down in between. So we're pressing down into that heel. So trying to get that hamstring a little bit. And then inner thigh also activates. Yeah, and if your head is down, that's great. We're gonna push that foot so far away from you that maybe half a pound of weight comes out of it. It can float a little, but it doesn't need to, right? And again, press down and away. Couple more. And 2. Last one. Hold. Now you can keep your leg up or down. We're just going to imprint, imprint, neutral, imprint, neutral. Doesn't look like much, but holy smokes, those obliques should be trying to work to help you. We have 3, 2, last one, slide that leg in. Now, if your head is down, that's fine. But if you can come into a chest lift, please do. Slide one foot out. Good. Push it away, let it float, slide it back in. Other side, slide, push, float. Good. Couple more. Good. Couple more. Try to lift your shoulder blades off the ground if you can. So if you're not able to from here, bring your hands forward, push them into that imaginary surface, and then come back. Now you can maintain this if this is where your body is. Or you can slide both legs out. You do not need to lift them. Just imagine the legs suction cupping in the socket and take 1/4 of a pound out of your legs and then drag them back in. If for any reason that didn't feel okay on your back, stick with one leg at a time. It's so much harder, isn't it? Yeah. 2 more. Unless you need a break, in which case take one. Last one. And come all the way in. Oh, you know, it's what I do for fun. All right, bring one leg at a time to tabletop. Squeeze those inner thighs like you're trying to pop a balloon. I'm going to show a couple different versions. So if you need your head down, we're going to do this, and then actually we're all going to do this, and then we have the option of bringing our head up. So take the ball in between your hands or the pillow. You're going to push into one knee from your armpits and reach one leg away. And then fold that leg in, other side. Try to keep your collarbones wide, like you're trying to take off a big old jacket. Ribs stay in. So if you feel your back, you could be arching to push as opposed to sinking from your ribs. Now, if this is where you are, maintain that. If you would like to come into your chest lift, we're actually going to use our shin here. So you're going to, with your armpits, push down into your shin, and with your glute and hamstring, push up into your leg. So it helps elevate you. Reaching, and then trying not to lower. Right? Good. Gorgeous. You can push up with your foot a little bit more, your left foot. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful, everybody. Nice. Now, if you are elevated, bring your hands behind your head, rotate. Yeah. If you are down, you can still add a little rotation. You just take your hand to the outside of the leg. Good. Couple more. 4, 3, 2, beautiful. Last one. Hug your knees in. Yeah. Now, we already explored the end range of our legs. We're actually going to take the ball and slide it underneath our sacrum. So that triangular bone in between your cheeks, if you feel it up on your low back, it's too high. Good. I'm just going to check everybody. Nancy, it can be a little lower. I would even have both of yours a little lower. Yours like this much, yours like this much. Yeah, almost like it's going to shoot across the room, but not quite. Good. Yeah, gorgeous. Good, good. Okay. So now we should be able to easily, I like the chuckle there, find a gentle imprint, but without force, right? We're not trying to do a huge tuck and send our spine to the ground. It's just the natural position our spine wants to fall into when gravity is involved. So go ahead, engage your abs, bring your legs to tabletop. Now, you can always use your arms to help you, right? So they can be out wider if you need more support. First, let your toes point towards the ground, knees start to go away from your face. You don't need to touch the ground. And maybe this is where you are, right? This is a great place to be. Using your breath to help you stabilize, right? We're not trying to grip or brace. We're trying to match the force we need. And then if that is great and you'd like more challenge, you can extend your legs towards the sky. Now, it is tempting to push the feet down to the ground. Instead, reach them to the opposite wall as if you were creating a tension rod. If you're like, what's a tension rod? Those shower curtain rods that has to have even tension throughout in order to keep them up. That's what we're trying to find, right? So throughout our entire abdominal cavity, right? We're not just gripping our rectus. We're not just gripping pelvic floor. We're not just gripping our back. Got a couple more. 3. And if you've got really, really, really long levers, you are welcome to flex your feet here to shorten your lever just a tiny bit. 2. Last one. Bring it in, bend your knees. Now, let them kind of dangle towards your chest. Hug one and extend the other leg out, just see where it goes, right? So if, for example, your hip flexors are tight, maybe your leg doesn't go down very far, right? If your quad is tight, maybe your knee stays straight. Just notice and breathe and hold. And then if you can, try to keep that leg slightly extended and push your heel into the ground. Other side. And depending on your proportions and depending on the size of the ball, right? Your form is probably going to look very different than mine. That's okay. Just check in, notice without judgment, and breathe. And slide it in. Go ahead, bring your legs to that tabletop, like you're trying to push against an imaginary wall, and then spiraling from your thigh bones, let your heels squeeze together. So you're in an active frog position. Now imagine my hands are against your feet and you just want to match my resistance. So do you feel how the backs of your legs kick on just a little bit there? Good. Keep squeezing those heels together. Keep pressing into my hand as your legs go into a slightly straighter position, and then press your heels together to allow your legs to come back. And then again, squeeze and fold. Good. 2 more. Everyone feeling their inner thighs a bit? Yeah. 2. Last one. And then come all the way in. Feet come down. Come all the way down. Go ahead, extend one leg at a time. And just kind of feel where your back is, right? Like maybe you have a little arch in your back. That's okay. Just try with your legs extended to imprint your spine and see if you can do it. If you can't, see if bending your knees a fraction of an inch allows that. If it does, feel free to do roll-ups with a slight bend in the knee. Otherwise, we're reaching our arms overhead, coming into our chest lift. Inhale, exhale, roll forward. Yep. Good. Now, there are a bunch of different ways we can do this. So Nancy, hold up your pad. So, yeah. So if it's really hard to get up, a little gardening pad underneath the low back can be really helpful. Otherwise, we're gonna reach our hands forward, shoulder blades draw down the back, curl your hip bones back, curl your tailbone towards your face, and we slowly melt down. And then you can come up. Now, if that's still really hard, we have so many options. Yeah, that was good. So go ahead, use one of your legs to help you, just to start. Yeah, push your leg into your, yeah. You can even use both of them. Yeah, like kind of let yourself roll. Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. I would also suggest rolling to the side, helping yourself up, and then just focus on the down, right? Yeah, getting there, getting there. Don't hold your breath next time. It's going to feel so much better. Right? So if any assistance is needed, it's fine. And just curl, yep, tuck your tailbone, yeah, ribs back. There you go. Yeah. Maybe just a couple more, you guys. Yeah. And you can also use your legs, right, to kind of slide them away from you. Yeah, slide them towards you. Yeah. Last one. Good. Nice job, everybody. Come all the way to the ground. Let your back relax as you let your knees go to one side and the other side. So just so you guys know, like everybody's roll-ups are different and everybody's roll-ups take time. I actually used to have to use a gardening pad and use my legs, and some days I still was like, yeah, right? So sometimes it just takes time. We're gonna come all the way up. So see if you can do a little roll. Good. And we're just gonna sit. You can sit any way you want to. Now, as we sit up, right, a lot of times we tend to grip through where, or like lift from wherever we can get our normal range from. So if you tend to like extend through your lumbar, that's where you're gonna get it. If you tend to extend through your thoracic, that's where it's gonna go. So let your spine kind of just relax for a second. And then think about pushing your sits bones into the ground, like they're rooting down. And then see if you can stack one bone at a time to come into your neutral. Everybody's neutral looks different. That is fine. Hands to your shoulders. And then think about your shoulders sitting down in the socket. So your elbows are going to point forward a little bit. Yeah, and that's great. Good, because we're trying to find like a posterior tilt of them. Good. Now think about the shoulder blade on one side. We're not retracting it. We're just drawing it down a little, and then the other one is coming forward. And look, without even really thinking about rotating, we're rotating, right? And then other side, we're just going to pull it down and let the other one come forward. And then allow that rotation to happen. And again, think about it kind of sliding into your opposite back pocket. Good. I see that look of concentration. So on your left side, hold there. I want you to actually lift your shoulder into, yeah. Is that a little better? Yeah. Good. One more each side. Good. I know this seems like, why are we doing this? Well, it's because rotation is really important, especially when we're walking, right? So we're gonna hold, we're just gonna bring our hands down, and we're gonna breathe. So don't try to force more rotation, your nervous system will fight back, so just inhale. Slow exhale, and maybe look over that back shoulder a little more. Big inhale, big exhale. And then we get to do the other side, gorgeous. And then hold. Just inhale. Lovely. We're going to come onto all fours. I know. So we're going to plank. It's going to be so lovely. So with our plank, we don't have to plank for long, but let's find the form of our spine, right? So a lot of times we tend to let our hip bones dive down and our back tries to do more of the work than our abs. So without overly rounding our thoracic, push into the floor. So it's like you're trying to widen your collarbones. Good. Now lift your belly button. Lift your belly button so much that your hip bones lift a little bit towards the sky. If you were to keep going, you would really tuck your buns under, but we're not going that dramatically. Good. Now slide one foot out. Push it down into the ground. Inhale. Exhale, slide your other foot out to meet it. Good, yep. Nice. And breathe. So a lot of times, we just try to start hanging out, but you have to find that intentional push and lift. And then if you're ready, you can bend one knee underneath you and then reach it back. A few more. Good. Beautiful. Nice. The leg that is supporting you, right? The stable leg. Think about that glute and the inner thigh helping. Two more. Knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. Those were awesome. Hands up and over to one side. Press your hips away. And then other side. We're actually going to come onto our side and grab our ball. So pop the ball in between your feet. If you have a yoga block and you'd prefer the yoga block in between your feet, that's fine too. Slide down until your head is nice and supported. Now, we're going to think about this top hip bone lengthening away from our face. Almost think of biasing towards sticking your tail feathers out, right? It's not a big arch, we're just not tucking. And then press your top knee down into your bottom knee to get your inner thigh to start activating. And then we're going to spiral the thigh bone in the socket. So press your foot into the ball and start to rotate. And then bring it back down slowly. Now you can also start to roll the ball towards you if you would like a little bit more rotation. So it's like you're dragging the ball up your calf with that top foot and then back down. Now, I don't really mind if you don't have a ton of external rotation here, right? So if you have to rotate through your hips in order to get your knee up, and hips forward causes your leg to drop dramatically, that's okay. We're still trying to find your end range of motion, right? So if that is just to neutral or barely past it, that's fine. We have 3, 2 more. Last one. Good. And then just bring that top or that bottom leg out of the way. We're going to push our top leg away from us. Reach it, reach it, reach it, and then hover it off the ball. And then without just relaxing onto it, bring it back onto the ball and drag it in. And then push it out, rolling it away, and then maybe hover off the ball. Nancy, bottom leg forward. Yeah, there you go. That more glute. And reach. Good. Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How's everybody doing? Good. Anyone not finding their glute just a little bit? Yeah. Now, if the ball is becoming more of an obstacle, you can just push the leg away as opposed to rolling it. That's fine. 2 more. Now, all we're going to do this time is drag that foot back 1/2 inch. Think about externally rotating through that upper thigh bone just a little bit. You feel how that glute max just kicked on more? Good. Maintain that rotation from the thigh bone, tiny little circles as you drag the leg back behind you. Hip bone rolls forward, Stephanie. And you'll have top hip bone rolls forward. Yeah, yeah. It had to come off, yeah. There you go. And then reverse the circle. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. And we get to do the other side. So bring the ball between your feet. Lengthen that top hip away, softening your ribs, tail feathers back. And just squeeze down to begin, and then rotating from that femur to get that knee up. And I'm just going to readjust my ball. There we go. And then down. And then you can start sliding it in if you need. Yeah. So Nancy, slide the ball towards your bottom calf. Yeah. Almost. Yeah, that's fine. I think that that's important, right? Like if you're fighting with your prop rather than it assisting you, get rid of it. Couple more here. Think about that glute initiating that rotation. Good. And 2, once again, it doesn't matter how high up that knee goes. Last one. And then I like to just kind of roll the ball off that back foot, bring the bottom leg forward, and then we just push it away. When we get to where our leg is straight, think about rolling it even farther. Yeah. And then slowly bringing it in. And then again, once again, you can always get rid of the prop and just use your own muscular control. If you have hip, knee, or ankle instability though, it might give you some interesting feedback, right? So if my leg is in the air, I can't really tell if I'm in internal rotation or what my ankle is doing, right? So sometimes using that prop can just give you a little bit more information about your body's movement strategy, right? I mean, just a couple more here. 3. Beautiful. 2. Last one. I'm going to hold this one out. Now think about bringing that foot back in space a fraction of an inch and then externally rotating from that thigh bone. So once again, if you have some limited rotation, only go as far as your body says it can. We're just trying to get that glute max to kick on a little bit more. Then we do tiny little circles. Good. Beautiful. You can let your foot relax. It's kind of a challenge to let your foot relax, but if it's like actually doing the external rotation, it's creating an environment where your lateral gastroc, reverser circles, and your lateral hamstring are trying to do more rotation than that glute. Beautiful. 5, 4, 3. How's everybody feeling? Yeah. And roll onto your stomach. Now, think about suction cupping your hands to the ground, drag them down. push your hands and elbows into the ground to get the tiniest bit of back extension here, right? So we're not trying to go into like a huge range. Think about hovering those legs up by finding those glutes. Inhale, exhale, float your hands, and then slowly lower. So we're using our arms to come up because we're trying to find our lats and our glutes, our posterior oblique subsystem. And then we're trying to bypass the erectors so we can then get our multifidus, right? One more like this. And then if you need your erectors to be a little bit stronger, start pressing down with your hands. And then when you lift higher, take the weight out of your hands and then come back. Press down into your hands and elbows. And then as you lift higher, take the weight out of your elbows. That's an option. You don't have to do that. If you have lower back pain, stick with a smaller extension that just challenges your stabilizers. You honestly don't even have to get high, right? You could be here. You don't even have to lift your arms. The intention is to lift them, right? That's fine too. Last one like this. And come down. Now, we're going to try to come into our child's pose by articulating, right? So shoulder blades draw down. We're going to push, look up, and then nod and hollow and roll. So it's like we're one of those like wooden snake toys. And then hands up and over to one side. And then other side. And we get to come all the way to standing. So come through your plank into downward dog if you can. Start to pedal through your feet and walk your feet towards your hands or your hands to your feet. And just dangle for a second. And then roll all the way up. Now first spread your toes and find that connection between big toe mound, little toe mound, and heel. If you're on the squishy mat, great. That's just more balance challenge. Now we're gonna add a little bit of vestibular and ocular challenge. It's gonna be so fun. Bring one finger in front of your face. Yeah. Now, look at your finger. Don't stop looking at your finger. Keep looking at your finger. Don't move your finger. Turn your head. Don't stop looking at it. Come back to center. Other side. And back. Right now, that finger is the only thing that matters. I always feel like I'm giving it the stink eye, like the side eye, like it made a horrible joke. Yeah. Couple more. So using that visual system and vestibular system. Switch hands. Now, look at your finger. Now, don't move your head. Head stays still. Finger moves. Now you're tracking that finger with your ocular system. Don't let the head move, right? That's the challenging part. 2 more. And come back. Now, if you can close your eyes for this, close your eyes. We're going to go like slower than you think you should. So close your eyes, nod your chin. Take your one ear to one shoulder. Bring your head back. Bring your other ear to that shoulder, right? So we're doing a little circle, slow and steady. Now we're going to continue that circle, but now our shoulders are going to follow where our head does. Now we're going to continue that circle, but our ribs are going to follow where our shoulders and head follows. Now we're going to continue that circle, but our lumbar spine, our lower back is going to start responding. And then we're going to follow that circle, but now we can go a little lower. Only go into a range that feels good. And then all the way if it feels appropriate for your body today. Hopefully you're not getting too dizzy. Come back, other direction. Back. I know it's weird, but if you start getting too dizzy, open your eyes, bring your arms overhead and start hopping. And then your shoulders can come with you. And then your ribs can start coming with you. This is like a spine tornado, right? And then the lumbar spine can start coming with you. This should feel good on your spine. And then let yourself go a little bit farther. And then all the way. Whatever that means to you. And then when you're back to center, open your eyes. And if you need to, you can hop for a second. We're gonna just come up onto one foot. Bless you. All of a sudden, no problem, right? So easy. Boom. On the other side. Yeah. See how easy this is now? Yeah, amazing. All right, go ahead, bring both feet down. Open your palms to the sky. Lift your collarbones. And give yourselves a round of applause. Nice work today. Thank you so much for joining me. You're all amazing. Yeah. How did everything feel?